Hello. In this video, we will try to learn some new concepts involving the way to print our statements, some of the data types, incrementing those data types, and so on. So let's get started. And if you can see here, I've added a new comment. So you know that if you use two front slashes, it's a comment. And another new thing that you have learned now is that if you want some comments to span across multiple lines, then you could use something like this, forward slash and star, and then write whatever you want. And after the end of several lines, you can have a star and another front slash again. So this is the multi-line comment syntax, and this is the single line comment syntax. But what I want you to focus on is what I have described over here as the output. So it's something like count one, count two, count three. So from whatever we have learned so far, you have to think and tell or try if it is possible to get an output something like this, count one, count two, count three. So think for a while and then let's continue. And I think the approach could be for this kind of an output that we will have to remove this part and then write count hyphen one. And now we can notice that the count two should appear in the next line. So we know that if we want something to appear in the next line, we have to use the ender. Okay, so now let's copy this. Okay, and after copying, let me test it, let me test. And what I can do now is I can tell this is 2 and I can tell this is 3, and that should be it. Okay, so let us compile the code and see how the output is. Slash it out. There you go. So this is what was asked, count hyphen one, count hyphen two, count hyphen three, and that's what our output is also, count hyphen one, count hyphen two, count hyphen three. So looks good so far. And so with what we have learned, we have been able to get this kind of an output. But now, if you think about it, this is not going to be a very realistic scenario wherein you can do something like this, because this one, two, three, it's kind of hard coded at the moment. So we have literally written one, two, and three, but there can be some scenarios wherein you have some variables. Okay, so now we have to understand what the variables are. Now, in the programming world, whenever you want to do or write some logics, it's not just that we will be writing some print statements. We will be doing some calculations. We will be storing some of the values for the future and refer them. So for all these types of operations, or for this type of calculations, let's say a simple example, you want to add two um, values and print the result of that. So now for you to add those two values, you need something to store those individual values, or you need something to store that result. So there is this concept of different data types, different types of containers, which I would recommend you to read about online. But for the scope of this video, I'm going to introduce you to some of the data types, or some of the concepts of the variables and how you can increment them and so on. So one of the data types which you have already seen, in fact, is this over here, what is referred to as an int, or something like an integer. So it's usually the numbers that you want to store. Then all you have to do is tell what the data type is. Say, for example, int, and then provide a name for the variable. So some name, and then if you either you could do like this. That's all. This is the way for you to declare a variable, and then you in all throughout your logic you can go and use this particular variable. Otherwise, what you could also do is when you declare like this, you can assign some value to it, say 5, and then terminate. That's all. So this is how you declare a variable and assign an initial value to it. So now you will be able to use this variable in your code, like wherever it's needed. So this is for integers. And now say, let's say you have some floating numbers, some decimal numbers that you want to store, then what you could do is instead of this integer, you could use something called as a float. And if you want to store some a string, for example, you will have to bring in the std namespace, use string, and then assign some string to it. So these are the different, some of the different data types, I would say. And I would recommend you to read further on the different types of data types and some of the basic operations with them online. But with that being said, now, in order to achieve this, okay, so now that you know of a possibility that we have something called as a variable. Okay, we can have a variable which is of the type integer to which we can store something, some value, let's say 1 in this case. Now, with this being known to you, I would ask you to think a bit of if there is a way in order to utilize this particular variable in achieving this kind of an output, something more realistic, something more dynamic rather than hard coding like this. So, one of the approaches could be that let me get rid of this for now. So instead of writing 1 directly here, what we could do is before we now once we print count space hyphen and there is some space, and before we go to the next line, we will just add this variable, something like this, and let's see what the output is. Okay, so let me clear this and let me compile and let me run. So if you notice the output now, we are able to achieve this particular first line. So count hyphen 1, we are able to print count hyphen 1. And this time we have not kind of hard coded it, but used the variable that we had over here. So if we're able to achieve this, now we should be able to use this particular logic and bring in these two lines as well. But the problem here that we see, the variable has the value 1, but what is required in the next line is +1 to that, so 2, and in the next line again a +1, which is 3. So how can we achieve that? So there is a way for you to do that, this variable, the value of that can be incremented, it can be decremented. So the way to do that is just take this variable, and if you want to increment its value by 1, what you can do is variable equal to variable plus how many ever times you want it to be increased. Let's say if you want to increase it to be increased 2 times, you say 2. If you want to be increased by 5 times, you say 5. So it will be something like 1 plus 5. 6 will be finally stored in this particular variable. So in our case, we just wanted to increment once, so we can write something like this. And after we do that, what we can do is just take this variable over here and just put it here, and then let's see what the output is now. Okay, um, so let me compile again and let me run. So now if you see, we are able to achieve count hyphen 1, count hyphen 2 because we incremented the value of variable by 1 and then reused it here. So now you get to know, you understand what is the advantage of having a variable like this, which we can, you know, do some operations, reuse. And obviously for count hyphen 3, you know what to do. Just repeat these two things once again. So I'm not going to do that. But we have to know a few more additional things here. Instead of doing variable equal to variable plus 1, another easy thing that you could do is just this. So let's run once again and see what the output is. Okay, the output is the same. So this is another way wherein, especially when you have to increase the value of a variable just by 1, or if you want to decrement the value of a variable just by 1, then this is an easier way rather than writing the full variable equal to variable plus 1 syntax. Okay, something nice to know. And I also said that if you want to increment, this is the syntax. If you want to decrement, I think you can guess it's nothing but minus minus. Okay, so this is another way to decrement the value. Um, so with that being said, now we know something like this. So variable and then we will use that. And now for me to complete the output, um, I will add the pending one as well. So it's going to be, I think, yeah, that's all. So let's go ahead and compile and check the output. There you go. So we have achieved it in a bit more dynamic way, in a bit more better way, rather than straightforward hard coding. So count hyphen one, two, three is printing. So this is good. But now again, if you take a look at this code over here, whatever you have written, always and always have the mentality to optimize your code, to think if something can be done in a better way. So if you can think right now that we don't have to do all this, there is some better way of getting things done, please to share your thoughts in the comment section, because in the next upcoming video we are going to optimize this. We're going to bring in some more new concepts, and we are going to discuss how we could have written it in a more optimal way. So until then, thank you so much for watching this video.